Welcome back, Inebri-art. This is Andy, the Inebri-art bod. Jesus Christ. How many episodes are we in?
Now, brown
Let's
cow.
how now. Okay. It's 164.
Unique New York.
The Human Torch was denied a bank loan.
Wow, I haven't heard that one.
Isn't that one that he does from, I thought you were doing Weatherman.
I was.
Oh, yeah, isn't it?
I don't remember that one.
I'm pretty sure that's one there. Yeah. Tip my mic. I can't see it. Stupid screens. Better? This is all going to be on the podcast, by the way.
Is it?
Oh, sure, because that's how we roll. So welcome back, Inebri-art. This is Andy of the Inebri-art podcast, getting the intro right for once. And so it's been almost 10 years since I moved to Plymouth, and I gush about Plymouth all the time. And one of the things that first got me into loving Plymouth was Lucioso's pub. And that's where I saw today's guest for the first time. He was playing with Steve Mazzetta, if I remember correctly. This is going way back.
Stevie.
And so we're here with Jackson Wetherbee of the Elovaters.
What's up, guys?
Thanks for coming on today. And
Hey, thanks for having me.
so initially when I started, you were kind of like on my short list of like local people because I'm like, at the time it was easier to get you. And I kind of was like, I know people who know him and whatever. But you guys are kind of blown up. The Elovaters seem to like really be taking off. How does that feel? Like, is this kind of like a surprise, or were you like, was there when you guys formed? Was there something where you're like, oh, this is it?
So the group kind of started with Nick Asta, the drummer, and I had a conversation in a bar, and I'd been wanting to do a reggae project for a long time. And he was like, hey, we should do a side reggae project sometime. And I was so down. And from the start, we wanted to get people that were like young and were definitely ready to tour and didn't have a whole lot of things tying them down. Because we didn't want any excuses when it came to the time of like, we definitely wanted to go and tour. And we wanted to blow this thing up as big as we could. And so, yeah, that's kind of...
So you kind of put the band together to avoid those like, oh, we'll have a 3-year-old, that kind of...
Yeah, you know?
Yeah. Because, I mean, you hear that all the time, is like these bands will be like, oh, we started to kind of, catch fire, and then, the bassist had a kid,
right.
And so we had to get a new bassist, and then,
Right.
that
And
leads
some
to
of us
bad
have
blood.
kids in the band, but we all take this seriously enough to consider it a career. And, it's really all just about goal setting and then doing whatever you can to achieve those goals. So obviously, like, you shoot for the moon, but you have realistic goals on the way up.
Yeah.
And so, just little things like trying to sell out like a local show. Or for us, we wanted to record an EP, and so we found a sick reggae producer down in Maryland in College Park for our first album. And we're like, let's just use him. And we drove down there, and we just did it right. And we got hooked up by a manager named Dr. Dread for a little while. And the next goals were like, okay, let's sell out a show in the city and let's go on tour. So, we started renting buses, and we realized quickly that that's not cost effective to go to Verk Rentals and
rent
a bus for a weekend, and you come back owing money. And so then you're like, fuck, we need a...
Oh, you're going to charge me for the mileage too?
Yeah, right. Exactly. No, it's all in state, I promise.
Yeah.
And, so then a goal is like, let's buy a tour bus. And so then you go looking for old, utility vans.
And then
or
it becomes,
whatever.
let's buy a tour bus that runs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then that tour bus that runs has too many problems. And you're like, man, let's get a tour bus with bunks and like something, we can cut down cost on hotel rooms if we can just sleep on the bus. And so now that's what we do. We sleep every night on tour. We pull into Planet Fitness. And half of us have the Black Card memberships where you can bring a free guest anywhere in the country.
Yeah.
And so we sleep in Planet Fitness parking lots.
And then you like shower there.
And we wake up in the morning and like get a workout in and shower again. And then we head to...
But that's really fucking smart.
Yeah.
That's...
Thanks.
Well, it is. But it's like, you don't really think about... That's the kind of the business side I think a lot of people just kind of miss. I've said it before, visual artists or musicians... they train and they learn their trade, but sometimes you need that kind of business class to be like, well, where can you save some money,
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a business degree, but it just kind of seemed like common sense. Like, you start looking at the impossibility of touring, and you figure out ways to make it possible.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's just goal setting. Let's sell out some show in the city. So we sold out a show at the St. Clair last year.
Yep.
It was like 5 weeks before the show, which is pretty big for us.
Yeah. Okay.
And now we're selling out the Paradise, which is on January 25th. And I think we only have like 150 tickets left.
Oh,
and
nice.
So it's definitely going to sell out
Yeah.
beyond a month early. And they're offering us like a second night. And so it's cool. And you set those goals. And, there's also something like the avalanche effect where when people kind of believe in you early on and then you are achieving all these milestones, they want to believe in you more.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you don't plateau, I feel like the avalanche just keeps going. And so for us, we're just working our butts off here to keep touring with other national acts. We just announced a cool tour with one of our heroes, Pepper. I don't know if you guys are Pepper fans, but
no.
So they were like I always like to say when Bradley died, Pepper was around. They're from Hawaii, now they live in San Diego, but they kind of carried that torch. And I remember being in high school and like jamming out to Pepper and Slightly Stoopid, and just being like, man, it'd be so cool to meet these guys someday, and like I want to have a band like that.
Yeah.
And now we're going on tour with them for a national tour.
So, looking back, if you had a time machine and went back to like Little Jackson, what would you tell them? Like,
tell them just do your thing, homeboy, because it's working so far.
But is there like a roadblock that's come along or something that? I mean, of course, there's always like hiccups, but
I would say that life happens, and life happening is what kind of makes you. But just don't ever give up on your dreams, but also be passionate and somewhat realistic of your dreams too. Like if you can't sing a lick or play guitar, shouldn't stop you from learning to play guitar and everything. But everybody has a dream and something they've always wanted to do and they've worked on. Yeah. And don't lose that, because I was 19 and I was almost getting signed to Universal Records, and I was like sitting in front of Jay-Z and L.A. Reid up in their offices, and I thought, they were just signing Rihanna, and Ray LaMontagne just come out with like his album Trouble, which is one of my favorite albums. And I was wearing the shirt when I went up there, and all the A&R people were like, you got a good ear, man. That guy's the man. And I thought I was getting signed, and it fell through. And I played in local pubs and bars all around Boston, until I was like, 28 or something. And when we started the Elovaters, and it's been a lot of tremendous growth. But a lot of times during that, I was like, man, maybe I should stop being a full-time musician, because just playing in pubs and bars every single night can be pretty depressing. And you're working on your craft and you're honing your skills and you're writing songs along the way. But you never know when like you're going to get your shot. Yeah. And it makes me sad for certain people who I think are so talented and they give up, because it's like, man, it could have been tomorrow that you got your opportunity. Right. And also like that mentality of you never know who's listening in the crowd or at the little pub. Yeah.
I mean, that's like a really good point, because I've always said it's like, you can go, we've done events, we've done things that have not been great. Mm-hmm. I don't want to call them failures, but they were fucking failures.
I've failed so many times, dude.
But like someone happens to be there and will be like, oh, what else do you guys do? Or, oh, you guys do this. Why don't you come to my place? And then, you fill another place.
And it's like, another good thing is make sure you're networking the whole time too. Yeah. Just meeting people and remembering who they are, and keeping in touch with them, and just, I don't do it, but I probably should. Like even like sending like Christmas cards or like just like Christmas texts. Like,
it's so funny.
You're doing well.
Like we're coming up on Christmas, and I kind of had that same thought. I've been like, man, do I send out Christmas cards this year? Is this like the year that I should?
I wish I had like a book, a little notepad of like, people that I love, people that are influential, friends, and on things like that, I would just send out a text to each of them. Yeah, you know what I mean. And I don't, but I do network, and I do kind of work that aspect for the Elovaters as best as I can, and it helps because the more people that you loop into your life and that are interested in what you're doing and you're interested in what they're doing, I mean, it's definitely not going to hurt.
Yeah, it's easier to have people kind of promote for you when they like you.
Totally, and it's easier to have people promote for you, period, because when you're shoving yourself down people's throats, it's not as palatable as when other people are talking about you for you.
Yeah. not be like, check me out, I'm awesome.
Right.
Yeah, doesn't
Which
sell.
I know it turns me off all the time when I'm like hearing someone talk about themselves like they're the next greatest thing. I'm like, and sometimes they are awesome, you know what I mean? But my first thought is always like, okay, bud, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it's not. I mean, even if they are awesome, it's still you still have that kind of taste of like.
Let your work ethic and your product speak for itself a little bit.
Yeah.
And push it along the way. That doesn't mean don't hustle your ass off, but
there's a difference between like check out what I got going on and I'm the best. You know.
Yep.
So, I think you're the first reggae artist I've had on. Why reggae?
So I grew up with my dad playing.
And you grew up here in Plymouth, right?
No, I'm not from Plymouth. I
Really?
grew up I was born in Georgia.
Okay.
And I moved up here when I was young, and I grew up in Kingston.
Oh,
and then
you're a Kingston guy? Fish, delete this.
Oh, God.
No, I'm just
I graduated from Duxbury High School.
Oh, okay.
And we moved into
so you're local.
Local,
Yeah.
yeah. We moved into my great-grandmother's old house, and when I was freshman in high school. And, you know, my dad just always played vinyl records when I was growing up. He loved Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, The Clash. He was in the Marines and used to surf all around the world when he was in the Marines. And
Oh, nice.
he's a wicked interesting guy. And he loved reggae, and I always loved reggae too, and I loved like where the reggae direction was going with a lot of new reggae artists like the Damian Marleys and Stephen Marley and like Chronics and stuff. And then when I moved to Duxbury, reggae and like it was a crunchier town.
Mm-hmm.
So I went from Silver Lake to Duxbury, and it was just a crunchier situation. Birkenstocks and people listening to Fish and The Dead, and a lot of Bob Marley. And I found out about Slightly Stoopid and like Ben Harper and Jack Johnson, and it like hit me. It was like this crazy freshman year where my whole life kind of changed based around music. Where I was like in Dispatch, like all these bands, Rail and Maintain, all these bands were like, holy shit, this music is like beautiful and so like groovy, and it's not like, I mean, I love some like rock and roll and classic rock and shit too, but this was something where it's just like all day long I could just like put it on and bob my head to it. Positive messages, but it doesn't, you know, you can also tell stories through it. I just loved it.
Yeah.
And it's always been a part of my sound, even with my own albums, like the Jackson Wetherbee albums.
Mm-hmm.
Part of creating the Elovaters was kind of like making one identity for my reggae side that was in my head, like,
Yeah.
because I felt like I had too much I was giving to people with my own name, and like every night it could be a little bit of a different show where people would come and maybe want reggae or more of my singer-songwriter stuff or whatever. And so I was like, you know what, if I focus all my reggae energy into the Elovaters, then the future idea is to also keep putting out my more folky singer-songwritery albums under my own name, and just kind of give them both more structured identity.
In the Elovaters, is there less pressure on you because you're like one of a group opposed to being like that guy up there?
Yeah, there is, and there's a little more. I do a lot of the songwriting for the Elovaters.
Yeah.
We write in two ways. I write songs on like my couch, just on my acoustic guitar, or the band. We all like get into a super funky groove. Our keys player might bring like some sick chord changes. Our guitar player has brought in a lot of cool aspects to the band with like, check out this new riff I wrote, and we build it around that. And in that regard, it's so much easier because basically anything that's sparking more inspiration makes it easier on you.
Yeah.
And in other ways, I think it's been more difficult because I'm starting to see like the pressure of like people are really into us, and we are growing and becoming more popular.
Yeah.
And there's like a pressure of like continuing good product.
Yeah.
Where before, when you don't have that pressure, you just write, I could write whatever I want. I could write about ham, eggs, and bacon in the morning. I wouldn't give a shit. It's like, you know what I mean?
That could be a hit. You never know.
It's kind of for me, maybe. But.
What is that song that G-Love and Special Sauce have?
Milk and Cereal?
Is it?
Milk and cereal, milk and cereal.
I think that might be
cereal and milk.
Cold beverages?
Oh, I like cold
Yeah,
beverages.
that's the one I'm thinking of. So you never know, man.
It's so true. You never know,
Yeah.
but there is like a little bit of and it doesn't stress me out too much.
Yeah.
It doesn't like keep me up at night. But definitely when I sit down to write songs with the Elovaters, I'm kind of thinking ahead more and like, what is the message we want to send? Because you start to get an identity, and like people, we have a pretty positive message, and we get people hitting us up saying like, man, I had a really tough year. Like, you guys were a big reason why I got through it. And it's like when you hear someone say that, you're like, oof, like,
it's weird, right? Like,
it's weird. And it's also like, God, man, like, I'm so thankful because it helped me. Like, the songs came from me, or like came from us. I should say the whole Elevators. Like, we feel like the heart and the soul behind the songs, but it's also like, wow, people out there are listening, but they're also like digesting it, and it's like it's sticking with them.
That's awesome.
So it adds a little bit of pressure, but it's good pressure. It's also like it's fun to be pushed a little bit and have to push yourself creatively.
Well, I think pressure like that can, like, people will be like, oh, hey, can you draw this for me and paint this for me? And be like, oh, when do you need it? And they're like, oh, it doesn't matter. And be like, well, you're not going to get it.
Right.
You know, if you don't give me some sort of pressure or deadline,
right,
it's not ever going to happen.
Well, that's it in life. And there's always a balance of being laid back, but with a deadline, right?
Yeah.
Like, be a nice guy, be laid back. It's all good, but I need this by this date.
Right. I was the kid that would, like, start research paper, like 4 days before it was due.
Right.
I just got an okay grade, but I got it. I need that. Yeah, I need that deadline to kind of like. So I'll put down the video game and do something.
Right. Yeah, nailed it. Same for me.
Yeah.
Deadline's definitely. I'm like a procrastinator, and the way I write mostly is like, I didn't ever used to sit down and just like try and write. Really, it would just music has always been like therapy and just what I like to do.
Mm-hmm.
But now there's definitely more of like a feeling of like deadline. I have a lot of peers and friends that are like asking me to do like guest vocals on their songs, or this EP that we just recorded, an EP that'll be coming out to you guys in the near future to coincide with our Pepper tour. And there's a lot of like pressure to be like, I got to sit down and we got to finish this album. And I had more help on this EP. From our drummer especially helped me out, and our percussion player helped us out on this one song, Poison Cup. And then there's another song, Nostalgia. Started with the groove with the band, and then our drummer Nick had some killer lyrics. And so we put melody to it and finished it up. And we're really, really proud of that one. And it's good to have a timeline.
Yeah.
And it's good to push yourself. Because then you have those songs you write when you're just like have all the time in the world and you're super flexible. And then you have the songs you had to finish. And at the end of the day, so far, they've all been pretty good for us.
So now that you have these deadlines and this pressure, even though, it's good pressure, like, I dig my day job. I enjoy it. But there's still days where I'm like, ugh. I gotta go to work. Do you, now that like music is your full-time gig, and like, is there ever those days where you're just like, I don't really want to work today?
So we call it deep tour.
Okay.
When you go on the road, there's always a lot of excitement and gusto from everybody to be back out on the road. And it's also probably because we're seeing a lot of growth with us. So when you show up to cities you've never played and there's like a big crowd of people there to like and singing along with your songs. I've never seen these people or met them in my life, and I can hold a microphone out towards a crowd and they're like singing lyrics back. It's a little.
Oh, that's gotta be really weird.
It's so weird, and it's also so humbling and beautiful, and like that hasn't plateaued at all. And so you are just constantly tired on the road because we sleep in bunks a lot of times when the bus is moving, and so every little bump startles you and wakes you up.
Yeah.
But no one complains about that. The one thing that I've started realizing is when I come home from tour, it's like I need like a week off at least, just to no gigs and just to sleep and like see my family and all my loved ones. Like, it's just like I came back from this tour and I immediately jumped back into playing like a bunch of local gigs.
Yeah.
Which, I'm more than thankful for, because honestly at this stage that's what's putting like the money in my account to even be able to go on tour.
Yeah.
So without these people that are giving me like weekly gigs and also tolerating me being like, hey, I'm gonna be gone for like a month and a half, but I'll be back, and then I can,
I'll be back and looking for a gig.
I can still keep my residency, right?
Yeah.
And I have so many people that believe in us that are allowing me to do that. But it is like when I get back and I have to go and play like a solo gig all by yourself. Yeah. There's also kind of like you're on tour, you're on a high, and then you come home and you're exhausted, and then you go play
a room with like 12 people.
Exactly. And But at the same time, you're so thankful. And I've also been in the mindset where I can't complain about anything because I'm playing music for people.
Yeah.
And like my hell on earth would be like sitting at a desk, like, you know, typing into like a graph, you know,
an Excel spreadsheet,
just and then clock in, clock out every day. That is like, to me, I'd rather go join like some hippie commune and like live out in friggin' nature and like, you know, like have like days to myself than be like, that idea of life is, you seem like such a number.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just another ant in the colony. And that scares the shit out of me. Kind of idea.
When you go on tour, how long do you go for?
At least a month. Every now and then we have short runs of like 2 weeks, but this last one was like a month and a half. And then I was home for like 16 hours, and I didn't even really see anybody. And
you had 16 hours in between your tour
and getting the studio.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not really a break.
No, it's not. But you know what? It's kind of nice, like that in a way, it's kind of nice we got it done. Because now we have a break. We have like some local stuff. We have the big show at Paradise in January. And then we have until like February 15th, we fly out to California for the One Love Festival out in Southern California. And then we come home and then we go on tour with Pepper. That starts like February 20th, I think, maybe. Something like that. So we come home, we have like 2 days off, and then we go on tour with Pepper. And that'll be for about 6 or 7 weeks. 6 or 7 weeks. And that'll be the longest tour we've ever been on.
Yeah.
And
are there points where you wake up and you're like, what fucking city are we in?
Yep. What day is it? What time is it?
Yeah.
Because real life rules don't apply on the road. It's like, you know, you get done playing and you get to a Planet Fitness at like 1:30 or 2:30, sometimes 3. And sometimes I can't sleep because you're like bumping around the bus. So I'll go in and I'll get a quick workout in a shower, and you go to bed at like 4 a.m. Then you wake up at like 11 a.m. and the bus is moving again. And when you get into that deep tour, like we like to call it on the bus, it's just all about load in, load out, rinse and repeat. And it's, you know, you get to experience so much, but at the same time, it's almost like sad because I'm like, oh, I've never been to the city before. Oh, I saw no part of the city.
Yeah. St. Louis.
How are you? Later. You know what I mean? It's almost like a hi-bye situation.
Have you ever, and I'm sure, you know, I already told you how I'm terrible with names. I could see myself being like, welcome St. Louis, or, you know, thank you St. Louis, and then be like, we're Cleveland.
Definitely. Yeah. It's happened to me, yeah.
Oh.
And I'm not good with that kind of stuff anyway. I should probably have, actually our tour manager, Alex Crowley, shout out to Crowley, I should probably have him like write it down on our set list every night, what city we're in.
Yeah.
And like maybe something about the city. Wow, that's a good idea. So I can like, you know.
At least cheat it a little bit.
Cheat it, but also have them be like, hey, I know something about you guys.
Right.
At least, because there's nothing more embarrassing than saying the wrong city.
Yeah.
Because a lot of these people are like, we put up our tour schedule and people are like we're, for instance, on this next tour with Pepper, we've never been to Portland, Oregon or Seattle, Washington. And we have a bunch of people hitting us up like, we're so excited for the Elovaters to come to Seattle or Portland. Imagine the build-up for them. They're so pumped. They're like, their band that they've been into is coming to their city for their first time. And I get there, I'm like, what up, Chicago? And we're in Seattle, and they're like, fuck you.
Yeah, why are you guys booing? What's the problem?
Right. And it's nothing against them, but it's just deep tour.
Yeah.
But like I said, just, you know, one thing that we're seeing a lot is we're meeting a lot of awesome people that are becoming more like family on the road. Our bass player brought this term called Jamly.
Jamly, okay.
Jamly, he's from an awesome band called Treehouse, and he's the biggest road dog of all of us because he's been on the road for like 9 years with his old band.
Jesus.
And then he joined our band. He moved up here from South Carolina, and actually our tour manager moved up here full-time from Asheville, North Carolina.
He's actually how we got in contact with you guys because I met him at Soundcheck Studios. So.
Oh, Crowley?
Yeah.
Oh, we just got a spot at Soundcheck. We keep our tour bus.
Super nice guys there.
I know.
Yeah, such a great venue.
I know. I love those two brothers.
Yeah.
And their families. They're awesome.
They were doing
Eric and Andrew, shout out.
Yeah. We were doing they were doing a network event, and Jeff Rosen's like, oh, you should swing by. I'm like, all right.
Yeah. Jeff's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, Jeff's. Wait, are we recording? I don't want to say nice things about Jeff on the record.
I will.
But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah, that's how I kind of got in touch with you guys, got his business card, and went from there.
Yeah.
So how's that different from? I mean, at what point did you start having like a tour manager, and you have a manager, and
man, like it just
like
for us, it just falls into us. Like Crowley saw us play in Asheville, and then before we probably even really needed one, Crowley believed in us, and he was like, I want to be your tour manager. And he's like, I'm moving up to Boston. And I mean, I can't give Crowley and Link enough love for their bravery for doing that, because I don't know that I could just move to another state on a whim and be like, gonna go try this out later.
Yeah.
And they did it with like, both feet in, and they jumped right in. And, so then we have a tour manager, and with the management.
Now, does he have to stick it out on the bus too?
Oh yeah. Crowley is the man. He sleeps on the couch.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he, anyways, so then the management, we were recording down in Virginia for Defy Gravity, our last release, and Charlottesville, right around that area. We were in Louisa. And on our day off, our producer, Danny Kalb, who we just used for this last EP as well, he's done a lot of cool stuff with like Beck and Ben Harper.
Oh, nice.
And he went and had lunch with Reed Foster, our manager, and told him who he was recording. And Reed was like, man, I keep hearing about this band. At the time, we were the Elovaters by then, because we were originally the Cornerstone.
Okay.
But we got sued by some band in Austria who also had the band.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had the band named Cornerstone. And they sent us cease and desist to like Spotify, and they took all our music down. Then we're like, man, we got to change our band name. So we changed it to the Elovaters. But Reed was like, I keep hearing about these guys. And I think he was like, just send me the tracks when they're done or whatever. And Danny did. And then Reed reached out to me. He's like, hey, would you want to put this under the Rootfire Corporation, which is basically a zero-interest co-op group that a couple of bands a year, it's really selective, but a couple of bands a year, they select an album that needs help,
mm-hmm.
and they put a bunch of money behind it, but they don't give you any cash. They basically have all the, like, they have the platform for how to make your album do well.
Yeah.
And then they recoup all their money just on online sales. So you get to keep like your physical copies. And then the minute they're paid back, they don't get any extra money. They just like ask for your bank account, routing info, and all the money just goes into your account. So it's like the most beautiful thing ever. And Reed Foster owns Rootfire.
Yeah.
But he's also a manager under Ineffable Music Group.
Yep.
And so when we were about to put out Defy Gravity, he was like, I had asked him before, and he's like, I don't know, you guys are like quite ready. And then when we were putting out Defy Gravity, he's like, hey, if you guys are interested in management, I think that we can probably have the discussion with Ineffable. And I was like, well, would you be our manager? And he's like, yeah. And I started crying, and I was actually loading into my Monday gig at Waterfront Bar and Grill.
Yeah.
And I started like tearing up, and I was like, holy shit. Like, we just recorded an awesome album at an awesome studio with like a killing producer, and now we're getting signed to like, Ineffable has always been my favorite label in reggae.
Yeah.
They kind of like create solutions instead of complaining about problems in the music industry.
Mm-hmm.
And then there you go. Then you have your manager, and we have a tour manager, and then we had we were lucky enough to have some people invest in us, and we got a tour bus, and here we are. Then we start getting on national tours with like bigger bands, like as opening slots.
And then you get on the Inebri-art podcast. I mean, what more do you need?
What's up?
So you were talking about this deep tour thing.
Yeah.
Like, do you ever feel like the show is getting stale, or kind of like, I don't want to say you're phoning it in, but you're kind of like doing the same thing? Do you like, how do you mix it up? Do you change the set list? Like, how do you kind of keep it fresh?
It can feel a little routine, but it never feels old to me. Because you're on such an adventure, and every night you have to have the mentality that this city hasn't heard this set before.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't say maybe in in 20 years, if we're still playing like Wind in My Back, I might be like over it a little bit. But, we opened for Shaggy this summer, and it's like,
Oh, really?
Mosta lava lava, it was on me. It's like, do you think that guy really loves playing that song anymore? He might, because when you see a huge crowd of people that are still singing it back to you,
yeah,
it's an amazing feeling. So, you know, we're not a jam band, and I don't take us as a jam band. So it's like we have songs that people love, and it's been helping us grow. So I just feel fortunate that we're even on tour and being able to play those songs for people in different cities.
So you're opening for Shaggy. Like, what has been like the most kind of imposter syndrome moment where you're like, I don't belong here?
Well, we've opened for like Ziggy Marley too. We've played festivals with like all the Marleys, I think, at this point. But all the main ones. But I don't know. Like I've had moments where I'm like, not so much like I don't belong here, but I can't believe I'm here. Like,
yeah.
For instance, like Slightly Stoopid has always been one of my favorite bands, and like they shared our music video to our song Meridian on their fan page,
which is a great video
on their Facebook page. Thanks, and shout out to Joe McCluskey for lending us all those cars and everybody else. And they shared it, and they said, "So nice, even Mama played it twice." And like Slightly Stoopid's like a fan of like our music.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? And like when we play, we open for them. And whenever we're around them, they like invite us on their tour bus, and I'm like on the tour bus, and like they know my name, and I'm like, this is so crazy. Because when I was in high school, I would have never thought, like maybe I'd meet them or whatever, I'd say hi once, snap a picture, but
right,
they're like, I mean,
they know who you are.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's super super cool. You know, we have another band, Stick Figure, and I are from the same town in Duxbury, and he's blowing up. He's
they
like,
sound really familiar. Do they have like a sort of locally famous dog? Did they do a beer?
Yep.
Am I like
Coco?
remember? Yeah, okay. And they did like
with Wachusett Brewing.
Yeah, okay, all right. So I'm not losing my mind.
No.
All right.
And they're like one of the biggest reggae bands in the country. They just did a sick European tour where you have the same label, and the main guy on that, Scott Woodruff, is always advocated for me and been a big supporter, and I can't give him enough love. He was definitely singing our praises when the question was being tossed around, should we be signed to Ineffable?
Yeah.
And being on tour with him, we went on tour with him to the Midwest, and just playing like House of Blueses after House of Blueses after House of Blueses, and they're all sold out. And I'm like, man, like I knew him when I was sitting like freshman year in history class, and like, his brother was in my grade, and his brother like passed me this CD, and he's like, yeah, this is my brother Scott, you should check this out, Willie. And it's just those are big moments too. We're like, holy shit, like, and it also gives you so much hope because it shows that like it is possible.
Yeah,
you know, it seems impossible when you're younger, but it totally is possible.
I had no idea Duxbury was such a reggae hotbed.
You know, I told you it's crunchy, bro.
So what's next? Like, what's like your next big, like you said, kind of playing big but achievable? Like, what's your next?
I mean, I don't know. They've all been kind of happening, so we haven't made like a huge. Like, I want to play Red Rocks. That'd be nice to play this year.
That is a gorgeous venue.
That's a big one. I'd like to have a really successful headlining tour, maybe selling out like, 150 to 300 cap rooms across the country. That's a good starting point. If you can sell 300 person rooms across the whole country, you're on the right track for sure.
Yeah.
And then you set a next goal. I want to sell out 500 cap rooms across the country, and then like the avalanche effect is a real thing, like I said. But for now, I mean, like, I'd love to go on tour with Slightly Stoopid. That'd be awesome. But I love Pepper so much, and we're going on tour with them, and that's incredible. So I don't know. We're kind of like, it's almost like we're moving faster than I can almost, like I'm barely keeping up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like I have like a whole lot of lull time where I'm like creating like this master plan of what I want to do next. It's like, it's just, we're very fortunate.
So it's more like, what am I doing tomorrow?
Kinda.
Yeah.
Or where do I have to be? You know what I mean? Or fuck, I got to get back to these people's emails or text messages. Like, sometimes you just got to like shut it down for a minute.
Yeah.
And I always feel bad. I can't even do that without feeling guilty sometimes, because on a day-to-day basis, there's people that I need to get back to who I love and respect, and you know what I mean. So
yeah, and you're like, I'll get back to him, and then 3
I
days.
feel like maybe I'm just in the thick of it. I'm in the thick of it, and it's just a day-to-day constant. And I think you need to do that in order to keep growing too. You can't have a whole lot of lull time. Lull time is not good. Like, you want to be too busy.
So Thanksgiving roll around. We can't do much during Thanksgiving. We can't run events, and people are busy. And I'm like, I have like 4 days off and nothing to do. And everyone's like, oh, that's awesome. I'm like, that's fucking terrible. I'm like, I'm gonna be so bored. I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, I could use a week of just sleep and family time, but
how long is it before you get bored? Where you're like, I gotta go do something.
if I had a week of just nothing but sleeping and family time, I start getting the itch of like, okay, I need to go play a show, or I need to like start being proactive, productive. But I mean, I'm always on. Like, it's you when you're in a band, you're on tour, which means 24/7. Even when you're sleeping, you're on tour working. You're not sleeping well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's when you get home, you need to like recharge your battery a little bit, and but at the same time, you get used to feeling successful, which is an amazing thing to feel. It's really great to feel successful for yourself.
Yeah.
And so when you recharge your batteries, you want to keep feeling successful. So,
Right. Yeah.
you know what I mean?
You don't want that to go away.
Right.
Yeah. How much has YouTube affected you guys? Is that something like you really, you got the new, I don't know how new it is now, but Meridian.
Oh yeah. That was last fall or something. It's been, I don't really know. We have analytics. Our manager Reed like loves to nerd out over like the analytics of things like Spotify and YouTube. A lot. I mean, we have like Meridian, another we released it on another YouTube channel, and I think it has like 2 million views right now. And I think the video is doing well. I honestly haven't checked it.
And you guys have like a live show at the Sugar Shack?
Sugar Shack. I love the Sugar Shack.
Where's that?
That's down in Bonita Springs, Florida, like southern Florida. Everybody that works at Sugar Shack is so on point and awesome. And that is something that I loved to do. We did our Sugar Shack session, and then they asked if we would want to release it as an EP with them. And I'm stoked we did that.
Oh, so like it's a venue, and they wanted to release your EP? Is that?
So it's a venue. It's an outdoor venue down in Bonita Springs, where artists come by and they do acoustic versions of their albums.
Mm-hmm.
And basically then they put them up as like a YouTube clip like once a week.
Yeah.
But it's like, once every 2 or 3 weeks they do another premiere for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes, I don't know how they choose who, but they ask if you want to do an EP and put out, your sessions as an EP for people. It's like, acoustic versions.
Right.
And I think that's something we're tapping into that's really going to be strong for us as well. Giving people like the acoustic version of the songs is a different kind of ticket. It's a different show. Yeah. And I got to give a huge shout out to Levitate. We have so much love for each other, and Levitate has been like hooking us up, putting us on the festival. And we sold out 3 shows this fall in their backyard. It's like 300 people or 200 people or something a night. I don't know what.
That's like it's a restaurant.
Rexicana. Yeah, they just opened up their taco shop, and they have Slack Tide coffee right there. What the hell were we just talking about?
YouTube in general.
YouTube. Yeah, I don't know. Shout out to Levitate. At Levitate, we took an idea from Sugar Shack. And the third day, because we had sold out the first 2 days in like 34 minutes. All the tickets were gone. Or something. Like it was like under an hour or something. Yeah. And maybe Friday was 34 minutes, and like the second day was like under an hour or something like that. But the third day, obviously we were going to do, because like it's a no-brainer. People are going to come, but how do you change it up? So the first night we did the first album, second night we did the second album. So what do we do for the third night to make it different? You could either play all the songs, like, you know what I mean? But I was like, let's do an acoustic day. Yeah. And they were like so on board. They're like, let's make it earlier. Let's have it start like 1, and we'll do like a brunch. And so they did burritos, which they normally just do tacos. Yeah. And like Bloody Marys, mimosas, and we sold out the brunch day. And it was super cool. And a lot of people reached out and were like, hey, I did enjoy the acoustic versions more than the like full band thing, which the full band plays on the acoustic things too, but just the vibe of it. Mm-hmm. And so it's been opening our eyes to like, man, maybe people will enjoy that too. So, if you sell at the Paradise, maybe we're also going to add another date on, and it'll be like a different lineup of, bands, but like half the show will be acoustic. And
Yeah.
it just gives a reason for people to want to come out and see something with a different flavor.
I mean, everybody wants to see their favorite bands, play, but when it's something a little different. I remember one of my favorite concerts I've ever been to was Jane's Addiction at, I think it was in Worcester.
Mm-hmm.
And they left the stage, and you're like, okay, it's way too early for them to be like ending the show. And then they started playing again, but they weren't on stage, and they had like a little stage set up in the middle. It's Jane's Addiction, so they're like stripper poles and whatever. And they did like a whole acoustic set, like right in the middle of the general admission area.
Right.
And it was just so cool and kind of unexpected that really...
It hits people.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, and it's like, how much did everybody love Nirvana's Unplugged?
Oh, come on.
I mean, In Utero is badass, but like...
That Unplugged session's like
that
legendary.
Unplugged section is so legendary. And Eric Clapton's acoustic.
Yep.
That version of Layla, I mean, to me, I heard that acoustic version of Layla before I heard his like electric version of Layla. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's a legendary thing to kind of try and master, and it's like, and again, it pushes our band to try something different. How do we play it a little different? So you can't just play the same thing you'd play electric. You know what I mean?
Yeah. When you come up with ideas like that, is it kind of like all or nothing thing? Like, does it go to a band vote? Like, how do you?
I mean, we make the band a part of every vote.
Yeah.
If someone in the band has a good idea, and it's like kind of a no-brainer, it's just kind of a no-brainer. And in those situations, like, there's no better idea. Like, no one had a better idea, so we're doing it acoustic. You know what I mean?
So you have the tour coming up for the new EP with Pepper.
Yeah.
Is there a city coming up that you haven't been to yet that you're really looking forward to?
Seattle. And
showering at their Planet Fitness.
Seattle and Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you guys have played in California. You would have had to, right?
Mm. Yeah, we played Cali Roots last year. We've done a couple tours through California. We're flying out for One Love. Coming up, we're touring with Pepper through California. We have other dates for festivals. We're going to be flying back up to California again. Our management company is in California too.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so, yeah.
When you're out and about, like, do you ever get like recognized? Like,
around here?
Like, well, I mean, around here, you're from here, but like,
yeah, no, not.
You haven't had that like out in a sandwich shop and be like, oh my god, that's Jackson Wetherbee.
I mean, I think like more like around the South Shore.
Yeah,
but no, I mean, we're not like that. I mean, like when we're on tour, we're grinding. You know what I mean? Like, this is definitely like our soup and nuts around here. When we go out on tour, we're still grinding and growing those markets. So yeah. At shows, maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, at a show, people might be like, I've heard people be like, I think that's a singer. I think I'm getting a beer in front of them and like, that's the guy I'm telling you.
Like, yeah.
And I always turn around and I'm like, what's up, guys? Like, and I like give them a hug or a dap or whatever. And snap a photo with them. And that's always super cool. Like, that people are like whispering, like they can't just come up and be like, yo, are you the singer?
So, I mean, we mostly talked about, like, touring and stuff because that's kind of what you're in the middle of. But how did it all start? Like, you talked about your father playing vinyl records and stuff. Is he musical, too? Is he a musical family? Or
No, I'm really the only musician in my family. My family always loved music. My mom always used to blast tunes. And it just all started, I don't know how it started. I loved music, and I used to sing. I was in big musicals and plays. When I moved to Duxbury, I really, when I was younger, I always wanted to play the drums, so I started on the drums, and then I took some lessons, and I played bass. When I moved to Duxbury, I wanted to just learn covers of my favorite bands, and I wanted to start writing my own music, and so I just started, and I don't know, I guess I just never looked back. I went to college for like Italian opera.
For Italian opera?
Yeah, I went on like a scholarship for a little bit before I almost got signed to Universal Records, and just to stay college.
Why opera?
State. To be honest,
I mean, opera and reggae. I mean, that's a stupid question, right?
I'm not a big fan of opera, but my teacher, Gwen Souza, was growing up. I used to take voice lessons.
Yeah,
and she would train me classically, and it's just something where they were giving me a scholarship for college, and so I was like, okay, I guess, and like. Honestly,
I guess I'm an opera singer.
No, that never happened. In my head, I was thinking like, okay, I can probably like get a lot of my gen eds out of the way
Yeah.
while I'm on the scholarship for opera, and then just switch it over to business and like minor in music or something. That was like going to be my plan.
Yeah.
I don't like listen to opera at home. I don't know a lot of like Pavarotti.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, I'm not very knowledgeable on the subject. She would give me pieces to learn, and I was pretty good at mimicking. And I would go home and I'd research a little bit what I was talking about, but you just learn the phrasings. I don't speak Italian or anything like that or German.
Do you feel like looking back that you hear about like these musicians being like, oh, I was forced to play piano or whatever? Like, are you really thankful for that kind of operatic background?
I wanted to. It's nothing my mom never pushed me or my dad never pushed me to do that. You know what I mean? It's I don't think you should push kids to do things they don't want to do. Maybe sometimes you should, but like as far as something like that's a passion, like a music thing, you should provide ample opportunities for them to fall in love with those kind of things and support them if they want to take lessons or get them into lessons and see how they like it or whatever. But you shouldn't push your kids to do something they hate, because I know so many people who like fell out of love with wanting to play music because their parents made them take piano lessons. And like, friends who've never talked about it in their life, and they sit down and they play a piece by Bach, and you're like Brian, like what the hell, you play piano? And he's like, I hated it. My mom made me take lessons my whole life. And I'm like, you're an amazing piano player. I'm like, what if he didn't have that whole like pressure and stigma about him? Maybe he would have like been creating some shit that people needed to hear. I don't know. You know what I mean? But it's
that fine line between like giving them encouragement and kind of, I'm not saying making them stick, but kind of
stop
pushing them
choking it down their throat.
Yeah, pushing them through that day where they're like, I just want to play video games. Been like, it's
and there's that healthy balance. Like, I have my son William, who's 6 years old. Sometimes he just wants to play video games, and it's like, nope, like we're not doing that right now. We're gonna go do this, but find something fun for them to do instead. And of course, kids throw temper tantrums and stuff.
Oh, sure,
obviously. But there's a fine line. Like, I had some friends growing up with who their parents made them practice for like 4 hours a day. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, what? Like, he's clearly not going to want to do this. When he hits college later and he has all the freedom without you like yapping down his neck, he's going to like implode, right?
Right.
Like,
he's going to be like, no one's watching me and I can do whatever the hell I want.
Right.
And those kids usually.
And that's when they drop out of school and like, you're like, what happened to him?
Yeah. So you have a kid.
Yeah.
Is he showing inclination to music? Or?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. He loves to sing. Every time I pull out a guitar, he likes to come over. Since he was a little kid, he likes to take a finger and learn.
Strum that, yeah.
Yeah, and he makes little beats on the iPad. And
oh, nice.
But it's like, I'm not pushing it too much. I'm kind of like letting it happen a little bit.
Yeah.
If he wants to play some guitar, like his little hands are starting to get big enough where I can maybe like teach him some chords.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
I was just talking about this the other day. My son on his first list to Santa, it was a couple of weird things, standard things, and then there was a hat and rock and roll.
Oh my gosh.
And it's like, do you want a CD? I just want rock and roll. And you're like, all right.
Greatest answer of all time.
Yeah, it's so great. And
so what, you buy some Van Halen records or something?
I think we bought him kind of like a mixed CD of like varied, classic rock stuff. Because, it's rock and roll. Like, you want him to kind of start with a variety. And I mean, the kid's very smart, and but he's always got that kind of love of music. He plays saxophone.
Right.
But he does it because he likes to.
Yeah.
And like he's not looking as a career, but he's it's just fun for him.
Cool.
So, and he's getting too old now. It's crazy.
I wish William would stop growing.
It doesn't happen.
I know.
I've asked him repeatedly, and he's halfway through his senior year now. So,
oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. When William started like saying words properly, like instead of saying like he would now says movies. But he used to be like, want to watch a moosies? I'm like, oh, you're so cute, right? And now he's like, Dad, you want to watch a movie? I'm like, man, can you go back to when you were like, you know what I mean?
I'll tell you the day that pissed me off the most was I used to bring him to the neighbor. She would like watch him during the day between the time I left for work and my wife would come home. And, every day he'd leave and be like, don't go! And like tears and, the kid thing. And then one day I'm like, all right, buddy, yeah, it's time for me to go. And he's like, all right, bye. I'm like, no, you get back here and cry and be mad that I'm leaving.
Right.
Yeah. It was, just pulled at my heartstrings. I'm like, it's just getting so old. And now he's 6 months away from being an adult.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's why people always say, like, cherish those days.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Because it's flip-flops. They need you so much, and they need snuggles and everything, and then one day they just don't, and you're like, wait a minute, I need it now.
And then like 6 years later, you're like, I can't even program my goddamn phone, and like, give it to me.
I hope I'm like one of those cool grandparents that like, my grandmother was the kind of lady who like, I didn't know what I was doing on my iPhone, and she'd be like, give it here, let me show you.
Oh, really?
She was badass.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I hope that. I don't feel like that's going to be the case. I feel like I'm going to have to like bring things to my son's house and be like, I can't get it to work, and he plugs it in, and I'm like, oh,
that's how
okay, that's it.
Right.
Oh, so that goes there, right? But this has been so much fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Like I said, we've met way back, and I've seen you around town. It's nice to actually sit and talk with you. So you're going to play a song for us, but like one song because you said you've been struggling with it. Oh, we have to talk about your miracle cure.
For voice.
This is like groundbreaking news.
Okay. Well, I think you just need to come down to Dirty Water Distillery and get yourself a big, sexy, neat. Or she makes a bachelor whiskey. Or you can get yourself a killer gin and not gin and ginger. What is it? What am I drinking right now?
The Moscow Mules aren't bad.
Oh, the limoncello. Oh, and okay, so this is a funny story. You're talking about the Rangoon.
Yeah, I'm like, what are we talking about? This is not what I was. I'm like, where is this going? Like, it's awesome that you're plugging we're recording because I totally forgot to.
Right over my head.
Yeah.
So here's a little secret for the next EP, everybody. If you're loving my milky vocals on this next EP, just know
because right
that
now you got kind of like that raspy phone sex thing going on.
Hey, how are you? Just think about this. Every time I went to go sing, my voice was pretty raspy because I was sick when I was having to record these vocals, and we ordered some pad thai and Rangoons, and I ate a Rangoon, and I went up to go do a vocal take, and I was like fine, and so I ordered another big order of Rangoons. And basically every 10 minutes, I would just eat another crab Rangoon, and my voice would be fine. And then it would start getting dry and kind of raspy again. And so I'd just eat another Rangoon. And so that's what got me through this next EP.
I'm going to take up singing just so I can eat like a shit ton of crab Rangoon and be like, it's for work.
And whiskey and ginger. Yeah.
Yeah, well, right. Drinking is not really something that I need to take something up to do.
Yeah, I came back... not feeling the best after a week of eating crab Rangoon every day. It's all right.
Yeah. So what song are you going to play for us?
I'm going to play our song off Defy Gravity called Gonna Shine. I'm playing it because it's the singer Brett, the bass player from Pepper. It's his favorite song by us.
Nice.
So as a tribute to the tour we're going on, this one's for you, Brett.
And where can people go online to find out more? I'm assuming you guys
just
have a
hit
website.
our Instagram. Just check out the Elovaters, ELOVATERS, theelevators.com. Instagram, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal.
Everywhere music can be found.
Everywhere.
And go check them out because they're coming to your town probably.
Probably.
If you have a Planet Fitness, they'll be there.
Bring us Rangoons.
Thanks, man.
Thank you. So down that you can't feel a thing. The best you're gonna come surrounding everything. Darkness fall like a hammer to the light. The darkness never win. Hold out for the morning time. So low that you don't wanna fight. There's food on your plate, but you're hungry at night. Fire burning, but you feel so cold. Numb inside, tired but not alone. Ooh, you gonna shine, gonna shine, gonna shine. Ooh, Wake up Sunday, but the engine won't run. Get a little money, but you can't have no fun. Fall asleep, but the day isn't through. Rock bottom, got nothing else to lose. Be fishing, but you can't get a bite. You can't tell if it's morning or night. When the days pass by, but the weeks are all gone. Sturdy up, no, it won't be long. Ooh, you're gonna shine, gonna shine, gonna shine. Ooh, you're gonna shine, oh, you're gonna shine. Ooh, you're gonna shine, gonna shine, gonna shine. Ooh. Yeah, you gonna shine. Ooh, you gonna shine. Oh, you gonna shine. Well. Oh, you gonna shine. Ooh.
And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.